So did Rich.
Okay, no leisure
Camera up
sitting
there.
tonight. You have to talk into that.
Got a belly up.
I watch.
Yeah, DeWitt.
There.
The last girl that gave me a lecture like that moved out. Just saying.
Nope, Debbie's not retiring yet. Nope.
As long as he's talking to Mike.
That doesn't work.
And just speak louder. Okay, everybody ready? Okay. I'd like to call the City of Ferrisburg Council meeting to order tonight on Monday, December 3rd, 2018 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hop,
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Here.
Councilmember Twa.
Here.
Councilmember O'Donnell.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Councilmember Belize.
Here.
At this time, I'd like to have you rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, during this Christmas season, let us remember that there is more to Christmas than shopping and decorations. It's the spirit of friendship through the year. It's the thoughtfulness and kindness. It's hope, love, and peace. Please comfort the families, members of former President Bush and his recent passing, and continue to protect our men and women in uniform during this Christmas season and every day. We pray this in your holy name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. On the agenda, number 5 is public comment. At this time on the agenda is for any citizen to give a brief comment or question to the City Council. Time for public comments will be given when an agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor. After being recognized by the mayor, please stand, give your name and address for the record, and proceed with your comment or question. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6. Consideration of approval of consent agenda. A, approve the November 19, 2018 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, approve a place on the January 7 City Council agenda considering to adopt a proposed resolution regarding the lease a portion of the premises of 18168 North Shore Road, which resolution shall remain on file with the city clerk for not less than 15 days prior to consideration of City Council. And at that summary of the minutes of the December 3rd, 2018 meeting of City Council be published in the Grand Haven Tribune. And C, adopt the resolution requesting federal support for the city's build grant application to replace Smith's Bridge.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
Just clarification, 6B is for us leasing to the county a portion of Coast Guard Park for
Correct.
parking.
Correct.
Okay.
Clarify, not expanding the parking that's already there, it's just the parking that is already in place for North Ottawa Dunes.
Just to designate it for the dunes, or
Before both the North Ottawa Dunes and Ottawa Sands.
very good.
They were here last month and
Yep.
discussed this. Okay. So there's a motion of support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passed. 7A, discussion take action if appropriate to approve a request from J&J Development of West Michigan LLC to reduce the letter of credit held by the city to $10,000. And in your packet, you had the information. So we'd look for a motion support before we move into discussion.
I would make a motion to deny the request.
Okay. There's a motion.
Support.
Motion support. Further discussion?
According to our city engineer, Mr. Jacobs estimates there's $10,000 of work remaining. He estimates there's more than a $15,000 range of work remaining to be done under this agreement. They recommend leaving the bond at $35,000 until all construction on the site is complete. That's the recommendation of our Warren Brusner, city engineers. Is that correct, Craig? So that would be I could see maybe if it's agreeable to the council, maybe reducing it to 25,000, but, I'm of the opinion we should leave where it's at until it's been completed, because this has been going on since, 2004, am I correct in that, Craig?
2005, 2006.
Okay, so we're 13 years into this project. It's high time they got it done.
There's a motion and support. Any further discussion regarding this?
This would be to deny, correct?
You agree to?
To deny the request to reduce it from 35,000
To,
to just deny it. If somebody wants to come up with a different number, you know, I'll amend my, motion.
okay. And according to staff, the 10,000, you had the discussion with Mr. Jacobs, and you've talked with Mr.
That was his request to bring it down to 10,000 based on the amount of work that he's done over the past summer, couple summers.
Mr. Jacobs, would you like to add anything to this discussion? Or,
I guess the only thing I would say is, we are planning to build additional units there. In order to do that, we will be completing the various sections of the project at that time.
timeline on when you'd be starting the new builds?
Well, that depends on sales. If you
Okay.
can tell me when they're gonna sell, like,
I don't, can't help you out with that one.
we got one building up,
Okay.
and it's for sale. One side you can move in tomorrow
Mhm.
if they wanted to, but
Okay.
it's a bad time of the year for sales.
Just to expand that point, looking at the recommendations from the city.
The reducing this to $10,000. All those in favor stating aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passed. Do we want to reconsider 7A1 to consider a different amount? So the original was at $35,000. Mr. Jacobs has asked to have it reduced to $10,000. Does the council?
I would make a motion, we reduce it to 25,000. Our city engineer estimates 15,000, that gives us, you know, a little bit of leeway there, but, it's high time that this thing got done.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table for reducing this down to $25,000.
I'd support that.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
I do know that,
condos are becoming the new thing. It's hard to find them of any decent size. I mean, my husband and I looked for a few months before we finally found one that we wanted, so hang in there.
Okay, so there's a motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed. Moving down to 7B, adopt ordinance number 296, an ordinance to prohibit marijuana establishments as defined under the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. And this information was discussed, the first read was last council meeting, so this would be our final read on this.
Your Honor, I'd like
Yes.
to move that we adopt the resolution regarding ordinance number 296, City of Ferrisburg, an ordinance to add chapter 117 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ferrisburg for the purpose of prohibiting marijuana establishments.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Craig, do you know if Spring Lake Township, what their view was on that?
I do not.
Okay. You had a information here that Norton Shores was planning to opt out, and you haven't heard back from Fruitport Township.
I did hear back from Fruitport Township this afternoon, and at this time, they plan to opt out.
They want to opt out too? Okay. Okay. My only big concern was possible revenue for the city of Ferrisburgh since the proposal one was passed by the voters November 6th. I'm not really in favor of like growing facilities, but retail outlets possibly. So I just hate to have the city lose any possible revenue in the future.
Craig, it is my understanding that we can change this in 1 year?
That's correct. You can change it any time. But
Oh,
the
we
state will
don't
have
have-
more rules and regulations within about a year.
Well, on one hand, I agree with Scott to lose the revenue, but then on the other hand, we don't know enough about this yet. And where the state of Michigan, where they want to go with their rules and regulations. It's still kind of a new thing, so, yeah. I like the medical aspect of it. I wish we could say, can we have a medical facility only? But I guess we can't pick and choose the retail that we have.
Certainly
Yeah.
can, certainly can, have that ability. So, any further discussion?
Nope.
No, hearing none. All those in favor stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. Moving down to 7C, introduction of ordinance number 297, ordinance to create a tree board. That information was given to us through the rec department. It was a referral from the rec department to city council. So is there a motion before we get into further discussion?
Are you looking for a motion to have this?
This is an introduction,
It's just an
so
introduction.
this would be
Oh,
just a discussion
okay.
item at this
Okay.
time.
All right.
So we don't need a motion, we can discuss it.
Correct.
Correct.
Craig, have you seen any numbers as far as what this is actually gonna cost the city out of pocket?
I do not expect any cost out of the city unless we're gonna buy a couple trees to plant or something like that.
Well, are we obligated to plant, I thought somewhere it said we were obligated to plant so many trees a year?
No. They want you to have an Arbor Day, day to plant a tree, but that'd be about the only thing we have to do. There's no requirement to plant a certain number of trees per year or anything like that.
October, I presented this to the rec commission because there's over 117 communities throughout Michigan, both large and small, that do have this. Tree City USA, and also Grand Haven and the village, Spring Lake Village, has had it for over 20 years. So with all of our green space and with Ottawa County coming in with their with Ottawa Sands, I felt it was a great opportunity for Ferrisburgh to get some designation for all of our green space. And
Anybody else?
Yeah, don't we already meet the financial obligations, but with our leaf removal program and
Leaf
brush
pickup and
program?
brush pickup, yes.
Okay.
Well, everybody else? As I'm reading this now, is this Tree USA standard worksheet, is that just for our information? It's not exactly what we're gonna do?
Well, you're going to do the standards that are met in the ordinance. Type of trees that are replanted, how they get pruned, dead and diseased tree removal. Then it talks about having, the tree board, which the Recreation Commission said they would be willing to do tree care ordinance, which is on the introduction tonight. Annual budget at least $2 per capita for a forestry program, which we meet with our leaf pickup and brush pickup. An Arbor Day observation and proclamation that has to be done annually. This is an application that we met 3 of the standards, and we indicated on the application that we will do an Arbor Day in April of 2019. I had a couple conversations with the people at Tree City USA, they indicated that if we put on the application that we're going to have a Arbor Day in April of 2019, we should meet the standards for tree city designation in 2018. Another conversation I had, they said, no, you have to have the Arbor Day proclamation and observation day first. So we're gonna put the application in and see what happens. We might not get it for 2018, but we should get it for 2019.
As I'm reading through this, Craig, the duties and responsibility, and then you got street species to be planted. Is this, if we pass this ordinance, is this the only trees that can be planted? Like in between the sidewalk and the road, or in your front yard, or how is this gonna affect the people that want to do landscaping?
These are the trees that are for the city of Ferrisburg, and then other trees, they need to contact the city to get permission from the tree board to plant anything else that's not listed here.
I want to plant a tree that's not on this list in my backyard, I come and ask permission?
That's correct.
I don't like the thought of that at all.
There isn't a pine tree on here.
You're right.
You start reading this, so the unintended consequences, it sounds beautiful until you start reading the unintended consequences.
Well,
I'm not gonna come here to ask permission to plant a pine tree in my backyard. I clued you that, so.
Pine tree is an evergreen. It's a different,
Well,
it's a
according
tree,
to-
but it's different. It's an
according-
evergreen.
According to this list, it's not on it, unless I missed something.
Right here.
That's poplar.
Poplar.
I don't see-
Well,
but they also allow for sassafras. Sassafras is a glorified weed. It grows uncontrolled. Yeah, I would have some issues with some of their choices here, but I mean, we're the white pine state, for Christ's sake, and they're not allowing.
Your Honor, here's how I read this: street species. So this is for trees planted on the street, city streets, not your backyard. That's how I read that, section 32.64. So that's for street and street trees.
That would be
Street
specific,
trees species for the city of Ferrisburg.
so that would be specifically in the road right away?
Yeah.
So a foot off the road
That's
right
yeah,
away?
correct.
Yeah. So that doesn't include your backyard, personal property trees.
That's my mistake. Scott's, Councilmember Solis is correct. If you look under definitions, it talks about street trees or vegetation, property lines on either side of the streets or within, or ways within the city. So it'll be road right away.
Question, Pat?
Yeah, I'm still not in agreement with their lack of choices, and even some of these are Osage orange, really. But I'm not against the idea of being a tree city, and maybe involvement on the board would be a way to either add to or can try and get some permission to plant beyond. It says that no other species than those included in this list may be planted as street trees without written permission of the city tree board. So the city tree board has the option of allowing other trees, as I read it. Okay.
Then you read the next page here, you got, the city can force you to remove a tree of any dead, diseased trees on private property within the city, such as la-da-da-da-da. And then the next thing is, all stumps of street and park trees shall be removed below the surface of the top of the stump. Shall not project above the surface. So now you're gonna tell me I gotta cut down a tree, I gotta have it ground down. And then it says,
Those are dealing with how the city will deal with, he's looking at.
this is private. On private property.
Shall be said, the owner.
and private property, then removal stumps, interference with tree board.
Stumps, yeah, the stump says street and park trees. So it doesn't say anything about private stumps, private yard stumps,
Section just ahead of it deals with,
dead or
trees,
diseased,
trees on private property.
you know.
I don't know, I think this is, quite an overreach.
Something similar in our city code now, when there's a dead or diseased tree on someone's private property, the city can ask them to take it down and remove it.
But this says you can actually come across their property and do it. Where did I read that?
The ordinance also, if
72.
In the event of the owner to comply with such provision, the city shall have the authority to remove such tree and charge the cost of removal on the property's property tax roll.
Not sure that's, I would have to check, but I'm pretty sure that's in our city code as well, because we can go on people's property and cut the grass and charge it on their tax bill.
Difference in cost between mowing a guy's front yard and taking down a $4,000 tree.
the tree is diseased or dead, you want it down.
Fell down on somebody or something, a car or whatever.
Well, I'd like to add my 2 cents here, section 3272. It says removal shall be done by said owner at their expense within 60 days at the date of service of notice. In the event of failure of the owner to comply with such provisions, the city shall have the authority to remove such trees and charge cost of removal of the owner's property tax notice. We're putting a burden on people who may not be able to even afford to have a tree removed. And I don't know if that's within city ordinances now, but that's what this says we can do. And quite frankly, I had issues trying to get the city to cut dead branches off of their trees, and did it myself. So I'm thinking we need to look long and hard at this.
Firms that we're opening up that, like Pat says, we have a lot of retired people that $4,000 or whatever to remove a tree is a big expense.
So the village has had this enacted for
Yeah.
so many years, and
Yeah,
so has the
20
city of
years.
Grand Haven. So this isn't something new that we're just unrolling in the city of Ferrisburg.
Well, it's something new to the city of Ferrisburg.
Correct. Sure is. Ms. Royce?
Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. I have a question on this line. How do you guys stop with like Consumers Energy and stuff? They can just go in, as we've seen recently down Dogwood, how they lopped everything down and left it sitting there. They got at the end of Dogwood, right across the street, those stumps are sitting there. They've been there. I mean, it's an eyesore and it's on private property. I mean, how do you handle that? I mean,
According to this, we can write you a ticket and make you remove them.
right, but I mean,
She's
I don't
referencing
think
the
we
utilities.
can stop, like, Consumers Energy or some of those guys from coming in and taking off the lines.
Well, that's a right of way.
Right away.
Right,
Same as along the railroad tracks.
Well, I mean, I saw another thing on Facebook where there's a tree right on Ridge Street that's leaning on the power lines, and it has been for quite a while.
It's probably a cable line.
No, it's on the lines, it's on.
Correct, but it's
all-
probably a cable line that's been up there, and it's not on a,
No,
it's not a Board of Light and Power or consumer line. It's a cable line that's hanging
Well,
up.
it might be today, but as soon as it falls, it's gonna take the whole group of them down, so it's a big thing, but
Yeah.
I just wondered how you do something like that when I don't think we have any control over what they do and come in and rip down, so.
It's on the city right away. Thank you.
Well, to Lisa's point, those stumps on Dogwood are on private property. So according to this ordinance, you can write them a letter and tell them to have them ground down below the ground level immediately.
Not sure if they're on private property or in the road right away with under the Consumer Energy's easement.
Well, consumer's energy easement is still private property, even though they have the easement, the property owner still holds title to the land. They just have easement to go across it. They don't own the property. See the can of worms we're getting into here? I mean,
With consumers, they can do, if they've already have that easement and it's filed with the county or the state, they can do what they want to within that jurisdiction.
right, and then pass an ordinance that says they have to come in and remove the stumps. Consumers isn't going to. But the property owner that owns title to it would have to remove it. We need to look at this a little harder, I think.
I agree.
Could a board tweak this at all, do you know, or is this what we have to follow? I mean, if we can tweak it to fit the needs of our city.
Or contacting our neighboring communities that have the same thing, and what, if they have faced any of these challenges also. Because we're all within the same geographical area here.
But they may or may not enforce it.
Sure,
You know,
but it's worth
the
inquiring.
discussion, yeah.
Sure, definitely. All right.
Good, yeah, let's look into it more.
There's good discussion on C. Moving down to 7D. Introduction of ordinance number 298, an ordinance to change the composition of Kitchelenco's Hartgard Dune Preserve Board from nine members to 7 members.
Your Honor, I make a motion to, this is just an introduction.
So,
You need a motion or not?
nope, just a discussion at this
I
time.
think it's good. I served on this board, and sometimes it's hard to get enough people there to actually hold a meeting. As you mentioned, you sit on it
I don't think
now.
we've met since June. June, is that right, Craig? Did we meet last month?
This meeting?
July?
That's
See,
so different
yeah.
because back in 2009, 2010, 11, or so, we were full board. So it's a change of the times
Yep.
and the people that are involved. So,
Well, if there's 7 board members sworn in, 4 constitutes a quorum, correct? But with 9, are there 9 members now, but they're not showing up? Okay,
Not showing up for various reasons, you know, there's not, it's just missing because they're missing. They have work commitments that have come up during this fall, and
so what is our proposal? And if we have 9 board members now, how are we gonna boot 2? Are there people coming up for reappointment that, I mean, what has anybody thought through the procedure here?
there's openings on the board right now.
So there are 2 openings?
2 or 1? There's
so then that,
So that would eliminate that issue of having to actually fire somebody.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think we have to fire anybody. It would just
Well,
be,
come on.
you would just have it until their term expired, but at least if you have 7, if you make it 7,
Could we have,
you could still have a quorum.
could we make one an alternate? Now would be,
CBA is the only one, CBA is the only one that has an alternate member. out of
No,
all
the
ours.
Dune Preserve has used to have an alternate. I don't think it does now.
That changed when they went up to 2000.
We're just going to 7 members on this one.
so right now we have two openings on the board, so if we reduce it, nobody's gonna get removed.
Correct.
Okay,
Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
right.
Doesn't preclude anybody from coming in and, you know, putting their, voicing their opinions, and it's just changing the voting number. So I don't have any problem with that.
Jim served on it too. Where you been, Mike?
Yes, I don't know.
That's fine.
Well, yeah.
We did a lot. We did a lot.
So this is just a first reading?
Yes. Any other further discussion? Okay. Moving on to 7E, discussion take action if appropriate to schedule a work session as a regular agenda item for December 17th. We generally have work sessions on that second council of the month.
Would this ordinance for the Kitchell Dunes be on that agenda?
So we'll
Okay. I would like to have a
plus the
discussion.
tree board maybe also.
Right, if we get more information. But not on the work session, it'll just be an agenda item.
Right.
Correct.
Work session, I would like to see us discuss term limits on boards and commissions. We've discussed it a couple times. It seems to get kicked down the road or kicked aside. I think it's time we make a significant discussion of it.
I agree.
Nope.
So it'd be term limits December 17th. All right. Working down to 7F, city council goals. It would be on the back of our notes that we had. So if everybody can flip that around. Is it on the back of yours? It's gonna be on the back of yours. Okay.
I already read it.
So with this, what we'll do, we collected, the goals were submitted in by council members, and so at this time, we can go through the 18 of them and try to consolidate them down like we have in the past. I believe we should be able to get down to roughly 11 by consolidating some of these. So the first one, number 1, balance the budget. That would match up with number 4, 13, and possibly 7. 7 is keep taxes as low as possible. So I don't know if we want that. It's going to be on the back side of Craig's.
Okay, very good.
Backside.
I'll find it.
Yep, got it.
Oh, 4, 13, and 7?
Possibly 7 on balance the budget. 7 is keep taxes as low as possible. Or do we want to set that a separate?
Kind of falls within the budget,
So,
right?
Yeah, they're kind of all grouped together into one.
okay. Then moving down to number 2 on the list, sewer upgrades would match up then also with 14, lift stations repair and improvements. Smith's Bridge replacement would go along with 9, which is find funding for Smith's Bridge, and 12, which would be Smith's Bridge replace secure grants and or MDOT funding. Okay. So we've skipped 4, we already accommodated for him. Number 5, street end development would go along with 8 and 15. 8 being keep goal roads in good repair, and 15 road improvement projects.
I think that should be separated. Street end improvements. Because as we get, Eagle Scouts want a project, maybe we can put little rope designations to it. They can put a bench in. I think that should be separated from the streets and road improvements.
Are there many street ends left to do? If there's a few over off the bayou
3 or 4.
that are over there. Okay. All right. Consensus of leaving street ends separate or putting that in with road improvements?
I'd keep it with the road because it's part of the road.
It's actually like part of a park, more of a park than a road. You know, but if it's kept separate, if we have an Eagle Scout that comes to the city and wants a project, then it's, boom, it's right in front of our face.
Sure.
Hey, we can do this, where if it's included with the street ends or the street development and paving streets and stuff, it kind of gets pushed by the wayside.
Okay.
you know, because.
So we have number 5 is street ends development. So, yep, just that one on its own. Moving down to 6, zoning and building code enforcement. It's kind of a standalone. 7, we bumped up to number 1. So then we're down to 8. Keep roads in good repair, and we'll bring 15 up. Road improvement projects. Okay. Number 9, find funding for Smith's Bridge.
Already covered
And
that.
that was covered with 3. So we have 3, 9, and 12. Okay. Number 10, address drainage issues. That's the standalone. 11, find ways to encourage citizens to participate in boards. That'd be a standalone. Then we jump down to, the next one I had open was 16, would be ADA compliance with parks website and live streaming. 17, educational training for council, board, and commissioners. And 18, collaboration with neighboring communities, future projects, and cost sharing.
Connor, do you think we should throw ways to encourage citizens?
A couple years ago, we did an open house to encourage board participation. And so that would be a separate entity from an educational course you'd go to for like ZBA that the county would host or something.
No, that's good.
Did
What
we
does that
cover-
go down to, like 12 of them then?
I believe so.
10, you count?
I'm assuming
We have 11.
We have
You guys
11.
got 11?
we don't want to hear number 11.
I lost track. You got 10?
Number 1, is also 4, 13, and 7. And then, no, number 2, sewer upgrades, and also.
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Where are you getting 11? I have
like
to,
to go
I
back
have to
through?
copy a minute.
Go, can you read back through what you have put together?
I have the same as you.
Number 1 includes 4, 13, and 7. Number 2 includes 14. Number 3 includes 9 and 12. 5 is alone. 6 is alone. 8 includes 15. 10 is alone. 11 is alone. 16, 17, and 18 are alone.
Now I get 11, I crossed off 8. Okay,
I knew you would.
now I have 11. Once again, Debbie, you are correct.
Good thing she's a treasurer.
Correct. Got that one done. Okay, moving down to
never doubt
8,
her.
public comments. Does anyone have public? Yes, sir.
Al Jacobs, representing J&J Development in West Michigan. I just want to thank you for your consideration on my request and also address Mr. DeWitt's comment about 205. If you recall, the economy in about 206 and 207 crashed and housing went down the tubes. We saw that coming and was stopped. So there's nothing done for about 5 or 6 years, waiting for it to turn around. And that's why nothing was done there during that period of time. 2 years ago, we went back and started working on it. That's the 36,000 on the thing that was done in the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Cal, for that explanation. Any additional public comments? Yes.
Mr. Royce, 17700 Navajo. I guess my question is for Craig. who sets the agenda, how the stuff is listed on there? Is that like, you do? Well, I was looking on the Michigan Municipal, website and how they have the agendas, and I was just wondering, is it possible to put the, board's reports before public comment? Because a couple people we've been talking that have come to meetings, and a lot of your reports are after public comment, and there's always stuff that could possibly warrant public comment, and I just think, you know, we don't know what you guys are doing, and then it's another 2 weeks possibly if a meeting gets canceled before we can make a statement. And I just think that, I mean, I'm looking at the leagues, the way they have it, and they have it above the last public comment. So if something happens at Kitchell Lindquist or something's at the rec thing that gets brought up to you as a committee, that we know what's happening and are able to comment. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Thank you.
City manager,
No report?
no report. Let's start with city council members. Councilmember Bliss.
The next recreation committee is actually gonna be on a Wednesday, January 9th, 5:30 PM. That's end of report.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Donnell.
I just found out that the Senate is considering a bill 5854, I believe is the number, but you can go to the Michigan Municipal League website, and they talk about the current legislation that's before the Senate. This bill, if it passes, will raise our water rates. Will force us to raise water rates more than what they are. It'll start out at $6 per year, but it will increase each year following that. And that is to pay for cities with lead pipes and help infrastructures in cities that can't afford to pay for that stuff, the repairs of their sewer. Let you know that's out there. You can look at the details and determine whether you want to support it or not. I don't want to support any more rate increases in our water, so.
Good.
Difficult. Want everybody to have.
This really wouldn't benefit us because we don't have lead pipes and we don't have.
Right. But we have
We're
to
already
pay,
we're
we gotta
already
help other people that
Right.
sit there and do anything.
just bring that up, point that out.
I'm up, Councilmember.
This Saturday, December 8th, Carol Sing at the William Ferry Park, and I think Mr. Lyons is going to be our incognito.
Yeah.
You have arranged for Santa to be there? Yes.
Santa.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
I know, my granddaughter enjoyed it very much last year, and
Kitchell Lindquist Dune Preserve is going to be discussed this Thursday at Calvin College at a presentation. There's 4 different case studies that students have been working on, one at Rosie Mounds, one at Hoffmaster State Park, and 2 at KLH Dune Preserve. And we also had groups of students out there this year doing some more research for something else. So one is on, actually both of our studies were on movement of dunes and how to stop the movement of the natural progression of dunes. And I think the study this year, Craig could correct me if I'm wrong, was on invasive species and on dune movement, I believe, again.
Planning Commission meets this week, Thursday.
I just want to thank everyone for approving the resolution for the grant for Smith's Bridge. I've been working, and Councilmember Twa is involved too with the MPO, the policy committee, so meeting with MDOT since the first of the year and throughout this year. So I brought it into light, so hopefully this will help secure any type of funding or assist with that grant. And we should be hearing about that grant by the end of the year, next couple weeks possibly, towards the end of the year. Okay. And then Carol Sink Saturday, remember to come out there. Also, if anybody's interested in joining my team for Walk for Warmth on February 9. It'll be down in New Zealand again this year. So that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Class dismissed.
There you go. I'm hoping Dr. relieves me for travel.
When?
I forgot to ask her. I'm sitting in there.
I would love to be there.
Because she only has so much time.
Well, I wanted to